guys, it's a very difficult place for me, simply because I know people who are buried there. It's not like a history lesson. And I gave you the whole background. And people say when you're in Israel, and you know someone on Mount Herzl, then you're a real Israeli. So the first funeral I ever went to in my life was a funeral of Alex. Alex was my officer in the army, a very, very special individual. And I wasn't going to talk about him on Mount Herzl because it was just too difficult for me. Then I came here and saw all of his art on the wall and thought, wow, this must be a sign. So I'm going to say a few words about the incredible human being behind these amazing, amazing illustrations. So I mentioned to you guys that being a lone soldier in the army is very difficult. So I have my lone soldier shirt on for the center right now. And one of the reasons why it's difficult is because Israelis go to the army because they have to. They also have a support unit. They have their parents here, they have their older brothers who've been to the army, and their friends go. And the whole society basically gears them towards giving and going to the army. When one comes by choice as a lone soldier, it's a whole different story. You can be ideological, you can be motivated, but when you find yourself inside, it's very difficult for many reasons. For language, psychology, physical stress, mental stress, many different things. And as much as I was gung-ho and I wanted to serve in a combat unit, and particularly a unit called Givati, which is an infantry marine unit, there was a time in the middle of basic training when it was just too much for me. Like I remember sitting in the tent, totally overwhelmed. And I'm not embarrassed to admit it. It's one of the 2 times in my life I actually cried. It was just like too much. Like people screaming and yelling at you in Hebrew, insane physical and emotional exertion. And of course, don't forget when the Israelis go home, they go home to their parents, and on visitors' day, their parents come. And then on soldier, it didn't happen. Even when I finished my basic training, we did this massive 90-kilometer march. Everyone's parents and families and sisters and brothers, and everyone came. And I was just sitting there by myself, literally, with no family, nothing. And in the middle of basic training, it was just really overwhelming. So someone saw me in the tent, and they went to get the officer. Right? The officer was Alex. There's a picture of him over here. And Alex was also a lone soldier, but unlike me, he'd already done university before he came to the army. So he actually went to Cornell University in the United States, which is one of the top Ivy League universities. He also took a year and went to LSE, the London School of Economics. It was absolutely like IQ off the start, charts brilliant. And he spent a year here, it was supposed to be a year in high school in Israel, but actually his parents basically were, Max and Suzanne, I'm still in contact with, they were pretty secular. They didn't really give their kids too much Jewish backgrounds. They figured, like you guys, just bring them to Israel for sabbatical for a year. They'll really get in touch with their Jewish heritage, where they come from, and who they belong to, give them that Jewish pride that you guys have received in the last month together. So their sabbatical year ended up being 3 years, and he was here in high school for 3 years, and they went back to the States. But those 3 years made such an impact, he decided that he was going to come and volunteer and serve in Israel. But first of all, he went to university, got more connected with the Jewish traditions whilst in university. And when he came to Israel, he said, it's not enough just to know Hebrew. I also, like we went yesterday, we went 2 days ago to Bak al-Jabir, to the Arabic village, to the Israeli Arab village. I need to also know Arabic as well to understand the other people who also live in this land that they call home as well. And he did an intense Arabic Orhan. Then he went to Jordan before the army so he could practice his Arabic. And he was very much, that's the kind of person he was. And he did things he did them properly. But my abiding memory of him in the army, besides the personal story I'm about to tell you, is everywhere he went he had a sketch pad. But everywhere. We could be in the middle of the field in the army doing training and he'd be sketching. Like this sketch over here, he did in the army with these watercolors and pens. And I actually remember watching him do a lot of sketches. I don't know if it was this particular one, a lot of sketches like this. He'd have had a little watercolor box over here with all that ammunition webbing. He had like about 30 kilos of combat equipment, grenades and magazines. And he had a little pocket in front just for his watercolors and his brush. And he would take out his little pad. If he had 10 minutes off, he'd do a quick line drawing and filling it in with watercolors and guard duty. And this one over here, he always put copious notes on the side what he was doing. So everywhere he went, he was drawing, he was recording it in the form of watercolor or pencil drawings. I remember he used to draw his feet a lot. Everywhere we went, he also drew this. There must be a foot picture there. There's always foot pictures everywhere. wherever he was, he would be like his sketch pad in his feet. And he had a very precocious talent. The picture at the end is his self-portrait when he was 5. So even when he was 5, he was already getting dabbling with his pens and paper. And just very, very creative guy. And his family was also super creative as well. His mum, Suzanne's a magazine editor for the Moment magazine. You heard about that. And so he came into my tent and he never spoke to us in English, obviously, because it's the Israeli Defense Forces where he spoke in Hebrew. But he sat down with me and he basically really calmed me down. He said, listen, I've been through it as well. I was much older. He only joined the army when he was 24 after university. So he was older than his officers. And he taught me through it very gently. He spoke to me in English. He's calm. He'll get through it. And it really was an amazing moment to have this guy. And basically the all-American dream, blonde hair, blue-eyed, really good-looking guy, could have done anything in his life and would have gone on to achieve greatness. And he did, as you can see over here. You can't actually see over here, but it's a memorial. This is a memorial picture. I mentioned to you guys we served a lot inside Lebanon. I want to speak about the end of his physical life, but it's also the beginning of another chapter in his memory as well. We served a lot inside Lebanon. Anyone who was in the army at the time served in a combat unit, served in Lebanon. And anyone who said they weren't scared, they were either stupid or lying, because it was extremely scary. We walked out for the only time in our army service locked and loaded with a bullet in the barrel. We never knew what was going on, if there's roadside bombs, ambushes, everything. And we were there for 2 months of total adrenaline poisoning. And we know that when you're in Lebanon, it's 99.9% boredom and 0.1% craziness. And every night we would do ambushes inside Lebanon, where we would, every 5 kilometers, put out an ambush. And our intelligence officer would give us the briefings. And he would always finish with the same sentence, which is Hamasima, your mission, La'agen al Yishuvi Tzafon, to protect the northern settlements. And so whatever the mission was, that was always the mantra after. So we all knew what we were doing there. By lying there on the other side of the border, we would protect the northern settlements. And it got hairy at times. We've had some bad weather just recently with some rain. I was once lying in an ambush, it started to snow on top of us. And we couldn't just get up and just go home because we were on the wrong side of the international border. We just had to lie there with our thoughts for hours, and you couldn't move, you couldn't fall asleep, you couldn't endanger anyone else in the ambush, and you're protecting those northern settlements. And Alex, as I mentioned, was my officer. Now, he didn't need to be an officer. Our officer is totally voluntary. He already come very late to the army. When he joined, he was older than his commanding officer, which is crazy. A little 18-year-old Fisher sergeants ordering him around. But he did it because he believed in it. In his 2 years in the paratroopers, he volunteered to become an officer, to become a leader, leading from the front. And towards the end of officers' training, he was reflecting about the officers' course he was taking. And he wrote the following reflection in his journal, which is over here. This is what he wrote. He wrote, once in a while, as I progress towards the course's end, I feel a pang of fear. Today I felt such fear. If the war comes, when the war comes, I will have to lead men to die. But those men were not men a short time ago. Some don't even shave yet. And I will have to have the calm power to yell to them or to whisper, Kadima, forward. And I will have to have the calm power to step forward myself. So we talked in Ha'Herzl about the Roy Klein who jumped on the grenade while shouting Shema Yisrael, right? That was his Rega Shelemet, his moment of truth. We don't know how we're going to behave in our moment of truth until that moment becomes on us. Once we're in it, the way we behave is built up from all our training, from our parents, from our teachers, who we are as a person, how we will behave. And he didn't know how he was going to behave. Will he have the calm power to step forward and whisper Kadima, forward, and step forward himself? Now, we've often quoted Gandhi about becoming the change we want to see. We have to step forward, and to Jew is to do. It's not a passive religion. And when Alex's moment of truth came, I was pretty close by when we heard the whole thing on the radio. We were 5 kilometers away in another ambush. And he basically died as he lived. He was killed on his 25th birthday. And he'd been writing a letter to his friend just the day before in the tent. And he wrote, tomorrow I'm going to be 25, it's a big day and I hope to. And then it was cut off because we were called up to go on this ambush. And basically what happened is that Alex was a a platoon commander, and there was another commander ahead of him. And then his particular unit was airlifted in with 2 helicopters inside South Lebanon to a counter-terror ambush. But unfortunately, the Hezbollah had already were there before them, because we'd used this site a few months before. They thought maybe the army would use it again. So for 2 months, they'd been staking it out just in case the army came back, and they did. So the first helicopter, which is not Alex's, it was our other commander, Ronan, who was our MP, landed on the place, and as the troops got out the helicopter and flew away, they came under heavy fire. So the officer in charge was Ronan, ran forward and was hit and fell. And then obviously when someone's fell, the medic, which is my position, but was not that ambush, it was another ambush, got up and ran towards the officer, and he was shot and fell as well. Alex heard the whole thing. He was in the second helicopter. He had a choice. He could have turned back, but he didn't. He actually landed under fire, saw the officer and the medic down, and without hesitation, he did what he wrote about, and thought, well, actually, he shouted out Kadima forward and charged forward, and when he got to the same place where the officer and the medic had fallen, he too was shot and fell on his 25th birthday. And the radio guy was calling the helicopters back, and we could hear the craziness on our radios that you can't even describe it. And under fire, the helicopters came back in and pulled troops back, including the 3 soldiers who had all been killed on the spot. Now, Alex's parents, Max and Susan, didn't live then in Israel. They lived in Bethesda, Maryland. And what happened was they got the knock at their door very early in the morning. From the Israeli embassy, and they sent a doctor and a psychologist and the military attaché around to the house. And it was actually Max's dad who opened the door. And he saw the Israeli embassy people and realized something had happened. And his first thought was, which one? Because they'd given their kids such incredible values. They had 2 sons serving in officers at the same time in combat units in the IDF. Alex and his older brother Benji, who was in the paratroopers as an officer. And then he heard the news, and he called Suzanne downstairs working on something, and she came up and saw them, and she knew straight away, because it was her son's birthday. And I remember talking with her once, and it's very emotional to describe, but basically she said that moment when she saw the people standing there, she felt the spirit of Alex just enter her body, and she just, and she just passed out. She didn't even remember what happens next. And they came here for the funeral, and they made a decision at the funeral. I was also there as well, that they were going to not talk about how he died. They were going to talk about how he lived. And they were going to publish his letters. And they were going to publish his art. It was actually all these pictures were on a one-man art show in the Israel Museum after he died. He was incredible, just a really special, beautiful soul. And the book they wrote about him is called Alex Building a Life. It wasn't about the death, it was about the life and what he lived for. And one of the letters he wrote amazing letters. I've read this book numerous times. For this uber Zionist, I remember one of the letters was called Things I Hate About Israel. And anyone who lives in Israel could empathize with that letter, because it's difficult at times with the bureaucracy, the people, it's not easy. And he wrote at the end of the letter, and he wrote a few of the things he hates, but at the end of the letter he wrote, I can't just put the pros on one side and the cons on the other, because this is my home, I need to be here and make it better. And this is really what he was about. He really felt it's not enough just to talk the talk, you literally need to walk the walk. And the way he lived is the way that he died as well. Sometimes you learn about someone the way that they die, what they do in their moment of truth. His whole life led to that moment of leading from the front, of protecting other Jews, of utter and absolute selflessness. And again, when we die, 3 things live after us. One is our children, Eladim. One is our master, our good deeds. And the third thing is what we create. So even though Alex has been gone for many years, he's still with us in his writings and in his beautiful artwork. So I'd like you guys, before we go back to the bus, to take some time and come up here and to just look at these amazing watercolors, look at his artwork, look at the colors, look at the life. And this is what his parents wanted to remember about building a life and his love for the land of Israel. Most importantly, his attachment, his connection, which I hope you guys have felt over our month together. This beautiful land with all its issues, lots of things he's been struggling and wrestling with. At the end of the day, this is our home, and our job is to make it better. And that's what Alex lived and died doing. And hopefully now that we've been here for a month and understand the beauty, complexity, and awesomeness of our own home, we'll go back and spread the light as far away as Australia as well. So thanks for listening, and if you want to know anything more about Alex, there's an amazing website called alexsingerproject.com, which has a lot more of his writings and a lot more of his artwork on it as well.